In the annals of conspiracy theories, few are as unsettling as Project Sunshine. It's a story of secret government experiments, missing bodies, and the quest to understand the devastating effects of nuclear fallout. Join us as we uncover the dark truths behind this controversial project. In the mid-20th century, the world was a very different place. The Cold War was at its height, and the threat of nuclear war loomed large over global politics. The United States and the Soviet Union were engaged in an arms race, each developing and testing increasingly powerful nuclear weapons. It was a time of fear and uncertainty, but also of intense scientific and technological advancement. Against this backdrop, the U.S. government initiated a number of secret programs aimed at understanding the effects of nuclear weapons and preparing for the potential realities of nuclear fallout. One of the most controversial and secretive of these programs was known as Project Sunshine. Project Sunshine was conceived in the early 1950s, at a time when the full implications of nuclear fallout were not yet understood. The United States had conducted numerous nuclear tests, particularly in the Nevada desert and on Pacific atolls, releasing radioactive material into the atmosphere. There was a growing concern about the potential long-term health effects of this fallout on the human population. Scientists knew that radioactive isotopes, particularly strontium-90, could be absorbed by the human body and accumulate in bones, but they needed more precise data to understand the extent of the risk and to develop safety standards. The government's need for this data led to the creation of Project Sunshine. The project was shrouded in secrecy from the beginning, partly because of the sensitive nature of its goals and partly because of the ethically dubious methods it employed. The primary aim of Project Sunshine was to measure the levels of strontium-90 in human bone tissue. To do this, scientists needed samples of bones from people of various ages, particularly infants and young children, whose developing bones were most vulnerable to absorbing radioactive materials. To gather these samples, researchers working on Project Sunshine resorted to methods that would later be described as both macabre and unethical. They obtained human bones from cadavers without the consent of the families. These bones were collected from various sources, including hospitals, morgues, and cemeteries, not only in the United States but also in other countries around the world. The remains of infants and young children, who had died of natural causes, were particularly sought after for the study. One of the most disturbing aspects of Project Sunshine was the lack of transparency and consent. Many families were completely unaware that their loved ones' bodies had been used in these experiments. The remains were often taken under the guise of routine postmortem examinations, and the families were not informed that parts of the bodies were being sent to government laboratories for radiation testing. This breach of trust and violation of human dignity sparked outrage when the details of the project eventually came to light. Despite the ethical breaches, the data collected through Project Sunshine provided crucial insights into the effects of nuclear fallout. The findings revealed that strontium-90 was indeed accumulating in human bones and that the levels were higher than previously anticipated, particularly in children. This information was instrumental in shaping public health policies and radiation safety standards. It highlighted the need for stricter controls on nuclear testing and contributed to the eventual cessation of above-ground nuclear tests through international treaties such as the Partial Test Ban Treaty of 1963. The secrecy surrounding Project Sunshine was typical of many government programs of the time, particularly those related to nuclear weapons and national security. During the Cold War, the United States government often prioritized scientific advancement and military preparedness over ethical considerations. This era saw numerous other secret projects, such as the infamous MK-Ultra mind control experiments and the Tuskegee syphilis study, which also involved serious ethical violations. The story of Project Sunshine began to unravel in the 1990s when declassified documents and whistleblower testimonies brought the details to public attention. Journalists and researchers who delved into these documents uncovered the full extent of the project's unethical practices. The revelation sparked widespread outrage and led to calls for accountability and greater oversight of government research programs. One of the key figures in uncovering the truth about Project Sunshine was investigative journalist Eileen Wellsome. Her work in the 1990s brought to light the stories of individuals whose bodies had been used without consent. Wellsome's research was instrumental in highlighting the ethical breaches and human impact of the project. Her book, The Plutonium Files, detailed not only Project Sunshine, but also other government experiments on unwitting subjects, painting a broader picture of the era's ethical lapses in the name of scientific progress. The impact of these revelations was profound. Families who learned that their loved ones' remains had been used in the experiments were devastated. Many felt a deep sense of betrayal, having trusted the medical and governmental institutions that had taken their loved ones without consent. The public outcry led to congressional hearings and investigations, where officials were called to account for the breaches of ethics and trust. During these hearings, it became clear that Project Sunshine was not an isolated incident, but part of a broader pattern of government research conducted without proper ethical oversight. Lawmakers and ethicists began to call for reforms to ensure that such violations could not happen again. These reforms included stricter guidelines for obtaining informed consent and greater transparency in government-funded research. The legacy of Project Sunshine is a complex one. On the one hand, the data obtained from the project contributed significantly to our understanding of the health risks associated with nuclear fallout and led to important changes in public health policies and safety standards. On the other hand, the unethical methods used to obtain this data serve as a stark reminder of the potential for abuse when scientific inquiry is conducted without regard for ethical considerations. Today, Project Sunshine stands as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked scientific ambition and the need for rigorous ethical oversight in all research endeavors. It underscores the importance of transparency, consent, and respect for human dignity. The lessons learned from Project Sunshine have informed contemporary practices in research ethics and continue to influence discussions about how to balance scientific progress with the protection of individual rights. As we reflect on the history of Project Sunshine, it is essential to honor the memory of those whose remains were used without consent. Their unknowing contributions have helped make the world safer by improving our understanding of radiation risks and shaping public health policies. At the same time, their stories remind us of the critical importance of ethics in science and the need to ensure that such abuses never happen again. In the end, the story of Project Sunshine is a powerful reminder of the complexities and ethical challenges that arise in the pursuit of scientific knowledge. It challenges us to consider how we can advance our understanding of the world while safeguarding the rights and dignity of individuals. The legacy of Project Sunshine serves as a call to action for all researchers, policymakers, and citizens to uphold the highest standards of ethics and transparency in the quest for knowledge. The need for data to understand the impact of radioactive fallout became increasingly urgent in the aftermath of World War II and the dawn of the nuclear age. The detonation of atomic bombs over Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945 had demonstrated the devastating power of nuclear weapons and raised pressing questions about the long-term health effects of radiation exposure. As the United States ramped up its nuclear testing program, concerns about the potential consequences of radioactive fallout for both military personnel and civilian populations grew more acute. During the late 1940s and early 1950s, the United States conducted a series of nuclear tests at various sites, including the Nevada Test Site and the Pacific Proving Grounds. These tests released significant amounts of radioactive material into the atmosphere, which spread across vast distances and settled over populated areas. The fallout contained various radioactive isotopes, including iodine-131, cesium-137, and, most concerning to researchers, strontium-90. Strontium-90 is a byproduct of nuclear fission that mimics calcium and can be absorbed by bones and teeth, potentially causing severe health issues such as bone cancer and leukemia. Scientists knew that to develop effective safety standards and public health policies, they needed precise data on how the human body absorbed these radioactive isotopes. particularly in the bones of children, whose developing tissues were most vulnerable. However, obtaining such data posed significant ethical and practical challenges. Conducting studies on live subjects was not an option due to the ethical implications, and animal studies, while useful, could not fully replicate human physiology. The solution, as conceived by those leading Project Sunshine, was to study human bone samples to measure the levels of strontium-90. To gather these samples, the project's researchers needed bones from individuals of various ages and geographical locations to understand how fallout affected different populations. The bones of infants and young children were particularly valuable for the study, as their growing bones absorbed more strontium-90 compared to adults. However, obtaining these samples ethically and with consent from families was complicated, and as it turned out, often disregarded entirely. The grim reality of Project Sunshine involved a network of doctors, hospitals, and funeral directors who provided bone samples to the government, often without the knowledge or consent of the deceased's families. Many of these bones came from stillborn infants or children who had died from natural causes. In some cases, entire limbs were taken. The remains were then sent to laboratories where they were analyzed for radioactive content. One of the most troubling aspects of Project Sunshine was the lack of transparency and consent. Families who had lost loved ones, particularly those who had suffered the heartbreak of losing a child, were not informed that their relatives' remains were being used for scientific research. The remains were often taken under the pretense of routine medical examinations or autopsies, and the families were not told that parts of the bodies were being sent to government labs for radiation testing. The ethical violations of Project Sunshine were not confined to the United States. The project expanded internationally, with bones being collected from countries such as Australia, the United Kingdom, and Canada. This global reach was intended to provide a broader data set to understand how radioactive fallout was affecting populations around the world. In Australia, for example, bones were collected from indigenous communities, adding a layer of exploitation and colonialism to the project's ethical breaches. The researchers involved in Project Sunshine justified their actions by emphasizing the urgency and importance of understanding the health effects of nuclear fallout. They argued that the data obtained was crucial for developing safety standards and protecting public health in an era where nuclear warfare seemed a very real possibility. However, this rationale did not mitigate the ethical transgressions committed in the name of science and national security. One of the primary figures in the early stages of Project Sunshine was Dr. Willard Libby, a prominent chemist and a key figure in the Manhattan Project. Libby, who later won a Nobel Prize for his work on radiocarbon dating, played a significant role in advocating for the collection of human bone samples to measure strontium-90 levels. His involvement lent scientific credibility to the project, but it also underscored the moral ambiguity that often accompanies scientific advancement in times of national crisis. As the project progressed, the data collected from the bone samples began to reveal alarming trends. The levels of strontium-90 found in children's bones were higher than expected, indicating widespread contamination from nuclear fallout. These findings were critical in raising awareness about the dangers of radioactive exposure and the need for stricter controls on nuclear testing. The data from Project Sunshine contributed to a growing body of evidence that ultimately led to significant policy changes. Public concern about the health effects of nuclear fallout, fueled by reports of increased cancer rates and other health issues, prompted the United States and other nuclear powers to reconsider their testing programs. The Partial Test Ban Treaty of 1963, which prohibited atmospheric nuclear tests, was a direct result of the mounting evidence of the harmful effects of radioactive fallout, much of which was gathered through Project Sunshine. Despite the scientific contributions of Project Sunshine, the unethical methods used to obtain the data cast a long shadow over its legacy. The lack of informed consent and the use of human remains without the knowledge of families were serious violations of ethical standards. These actions damaged public trust in scientific research and government institutions, highlighting the need for transparency and accountability in scientific endeavors. The revelations about Project Sunshine and other unethical research practices from that era led to significant changes in how scientific research is conducted and regulated. The development of institutional review boards, IRBs, stricter guidelines for informed consent, and increased oversight of research involving human subjects were direct responses to the ethical failings of projects like Sunshine. In the years since Project Sunshine, the ethical standards for scientific research have evolved considerably. Today, researchers are required to obtain informed consent from participants, provide detailed information about the nature and purpose of their studies, and ensure that participants are fully aware of their rights. These safeguards are designed to protect individuals' dignity and autonomy, and prevent abuses that occurred during Project Sunshine. The story of Project Sunshine also serves as a reminder of the importance of ethical education for scientists and researchers. Training in research ethics and the principles of human subjects protection is now a standard part of scientific education, helping to ensure that future generations of researchers are aware of their ethical responsibilities. As we reflect on Project Sunshine's history, it is essential to recognize both its scientific contributions and its ethical transgressions. The data collected through these unethical means played a crucial role in advancing our understanding of the health effects of nuclear fallout and shaping public health policies. At the same time, the violations of trust and dignity serve as a cautionary tale about the dangers of prioritizing scientific progress over ethical considerations. In conclusion, Project Sunshine represents a complex and troubling chapter in the history of scientific research. It underscores the critical importance of balancing the pursuit of knowledge with the need to uphold ethical standards and protect human rights. The lessons learned from Project Sunshine continue to inform contemporary practices in research ethics, reminding us that scientific progress must always be tempered by a commitment to transparency, consent, and respect for the individuals who contribute to our understanding of the world. The grim reality of Project Sunshine is not only marked by the lengths to which scientists went to collect data, but also by the deep ethical breaches that occurred throughout its execution. As the United States intensified its nuclear testing in the mid-20th century, the urgency to understand the health impacts of radioactive fallout grew. Project Sunshine, initiated under the guise of scientific necessity, resorted to deeply unsettling methods to obtain the crucial data on the effects of radiation on human bone tissue. This chapter delves into the harrowing details of these methods and the broader implications of the project's conduct. To gather the necessary data on strontium-90 absorption, Project Sunshine researchers required human bones, particularly those of infants and young children. These bones were needed to measure the accumulation of radioactive isotopes, which posed significant health risks, including bone cancer and leukemia. However, the acquisition of these samples was fraught with ethical violations and a blatant disregard for the dignity and consent of individuals and their families. The process of collecting bone samples began with establishing a covert network of collaborators, including doctors, hospitals, funeral homes, and mortuaries. These collaborators were tasked with acquiring bones from deceased infants and children without informing their families. The remains were often taken during autopsies or post-mortem examinations, with parts of the skeleton, sometimes entire limbs, being removed and sent to government laboratories for analysis. In many instances, families were led to believe that their deceased loved ones were being handled with the utmost care and respect. They were not informed that their children's remains were being used in radiation experiments. This deception was justified by researchers as a necessary measure to ensure the success of their studies, but it fundamentally violated the principles of informed consent and respect for human dignity. The extent of these ethical breaches varied by location. In the United States, hospitals and morgues in various states participated in the clandestine collection of bones. However, Project Sunshine's reach extended far beyond American borders. Bones were collected internationally from countries such as Australia, the United Kingdom, and Canada, among others. In Australia, for example, bones were taken from indigenous communities, highlighting not only ethical violations, but also elements of exploitation and colonialism. One particularly disturbing case involved the collection of bones from stillborn infants and young children in the United Kingdom. Researchers obtained samples from hospitals and orphanages, often without any form of consent from the families. In some cases, entire bodies were shipped to the United States under false pretenses, only to be dissected and analyzed for radioactive content. The methods used to obtain these samples were often gruesome. Researchers would strip the flesh from bones to prepare them for testing, a process that dehumanized the remains and treated them as mere objects of study rather than the remains of individuals who had once lived. This cold clinical approach to human remains starkly contrasted with the ethical standards that should govern scientific research. The rationale provided by those involved in Project Sunshine was rooted in the perceived urgency of understanding the effects of nuclear fallout. They argued that the data obtained from these bone samples was crucial for developing safety standards and protecting public health in an era where the threat of nuclear war was a grim reality. However, this argument did not justify the profound ethical violations committed in the name of science. The lack of transparency and consent in Project Sunshine was indicative of a broader pattern of unethical research practices during this period. The Cold War era saw numerous instances where scientific and medical research was conducted without proper ethical oversight, often involving vulnerable populations or covert operations. The rationale of national security and scientific progress was frequently used to justify actions that would later be recognized as serious breaches of ethical standards. The revelation of Project Sunshine's unethical practices did not occur until decades later, when declassified documents and whistleblower accounts brought the truth to light. The delayed exposure of these practices added another layer of betrayal for the families whose loved ones had been used without consent. The realization that their children's remains had been part of secret government experiments was devastating for many. One of the most significant whistleblowers in this context was Eileen Wellsome, an investigative journalist whose work in the 1990s uncovered the extent of the government's unethical research practices, including Project Sunshine. Wellsome's investigations revealed not only the details of the bone collection, but also the broader context of radiation experiments on unwitting subjects. Her book, The Plutonium Files, provided a comprehensive account of these practices and highlighted the human cost of such unethical research. The impact of these revelations was profound. Public outcry over the ethical violations committed during Project Sunshine and similar experiments led to congressional hearings and investigations. These hearings sought to hold those responsible accountable and to ensure that such practices would never be repeated. Lawmakers and ethicists emphasized the need for stricter guidelines and oversight in scientific research involving human subjects. One of the most poignant moments during these hearings came when family members of those whose remains had been used without consent testified about their experiences. Their stories highlighted the deep personal and emotional toll of the government's actions. Many expressed feelings of betrayal and grief, having trusted medical and governmental institutions that had violated that trust in the most profound way. The ethical breaches of Project Sunshine had long-lasting repercussions, not only for the families involved, but also for the field of scientific research. The scandal underscored the critical importance of informed consent, transparency, and respect for human dignity in all research endeavors. It served as a catalyst for significant changes in research ethics, leading to the establishment of institutional review boards, IRBs, and stricter guidelines for the conduct of research involving human subjects. The legacy of Project Sunshine is a complex one. On the one hand, the data obtained from the project contributed significantly to our understanding of the health risks associated with nuclear fallout and informed public health policies and safety standards. On the other hand, the unethical methods used to obtain this data serve as a stark reminder of the potential for abuse when scientific inquiry is conducted without regard for ethical considerations. In contemporary scientific practice, the lessons learned from Project Sunshine continue to inform ethical standards and guidelines. Researchers are now required to obtain informed consent from participants, provide detailed information about the nature and purpose of their studies, and ensure that participants are fully aware of their rights. These safeguards are designed to protect individuals' dignity and autonomy and prevent abuses that occurred during Project Sunshine. The story of Project Sunshine also highlights the importance of ethical education for scientists and researchers. Training in research ethics and the principles of human subjects protection is now a standard part of scientific education, helping to ensure that future generations of researchers are aware of their ethical responsibilities. As we reflect on the history of Project Sunshine, it is essential to honor the memory of those whose remains were used without consent. Their unknowing contributions have helped make the world safer by improving our understanding of radiation risks and shaping public health policies. At the same time, their stories remind us of the critical importance of ethics in science and the need to ensure that such abuses never happen again. The grim reality of Project Sunshine serves as a powerful reminder of the complexities and ethical challenges that arise in the pursuit of scientific knowledge. It challenges us to consider how we can advance our understanding of the world while safeguarding the rights and dignity of individuals. The legacy of Project Sunshine serves as a call to action for all researchers, policymakers, and citizens to uphold the highest standards of ethics and transparency in the quest for knowledge. The revelations about Project Sunshine and the whistleblowers who brought the truth to light marked a turning point in the public's understanding of government secrecy and the ethical boundaries of scientific research. This chapter delves into the stories of those whistleblowers, the process of uncovering the hidden details of Project Sunshine, and the broader impact of these revelations on society and science. The secrecy surrounding Project Sunshine was typical of many government programs during the Cold War, where national security concerns often took precedence over transparency and ethical considerations. For years, the details of the project were buried in classified documents, shielded from public scrutiny. However, the relentless efforts of whistleblowers and investigative journalists eventually exposed the dark reality behind the government's pursuit of data on radioactive fallout. One of the pivotal figures in uncovering the truth about Project Sunshine was Eileen Wellsome, a tenacious investigative journalist whose work in the 1990s brought to light not only the unethical practices of Project Sunshine, but also a broader pattern of government-sanctioned radiation experiments. Wellsome's groundbreaking work began with her investigation into the plutonium injections conducted on unwitting patients during the same era. As she delved deeper, she discovered connections to other secret projects, including Project Sunshine. Wellsome's investigations were meticulous and exhaustive. She combed through declassified documents, interviewed surviving family members, and pieced together the fragmented accounts of those involved. Her persistence paid off when she uncovered detailed records of bone collections and the researchers' correspondence discussing the project's objectives and methods. Wellsome's work culminated in her Pulitzer Prize-winning book, The Plutonium Files, which provided a comprehensive and damning account of the government's unethical experiments on human subjects. The revelations about Project Sunshine and other similar experiments sparked widespread outrage and led to significant media coverage. News outlets reported on the unethical practices, highlighting the lack of informed consent and the use of human remains without the knowledge of families. These reports struck a chord with the public, who were horrified to learn that their government had conducted such experiments in secret. The outcry from the public and the media prompted lawmakers to take action. Congressional hearings were convened to investigate the extent of the ethical breaches and to hold those responsible accountable. These hearings brought to light the full scope of Project Sunshine and provided a platform for affected families to share their stories. The testimonies of these families were both powerful and heartbreaking, underscoring the human cost of the government's actions. One particularly poignant testimony came from Janine Jones, whose infant son's remains had been used in Project Sunshine without her knowledge. Jones described the pain and betrayal she felt upon learning that her son's body had been dissected and studied without her consent. Her story, along with those of other affected families, highlighted the deep emotional toll of the government's actions and the lasting impact on the families involved. The congressional hearings also featured testimonies from scientists and officials involved in Project Sunshine. These individuals defended their actions by emphasizing the perceived urgency and importance of understanding the effects of nuclear fallout. However, their justifications did little to assuage the public's anger and frustration. Lawmakers and ethicists at the hearings called for significant reforms to prevent such ethical breaches from occurring in the future. One of the key outcomes of the congressional hearings was the establishment of stricter guidelines for research involving human subjects. These guidelines emphasize the importance of informed consent, transparency, and respect for the dignity of individuals. The hearings also led to the creation of institutional review boards, IRBs, to oversee research and ensure that ethical standards were upheld. These IRBs are now a standard component of scientific research, providing oversight and accountability to prevent abuses like those seen in Project Sunshine. The revelations about Project Sunshine also had a broader impact on public trust in government and scientific institutions. The ethical breaches uncovered by Welsum and other investigators eroded confidence in these institutions, leading to calls for greater transparency and accountability. The public demanded assurances that such unethical practices would not be repeated and that the rights and dignity of individuals would be respected in all scientific research. In response to these demands, government agencies and scientific institutions implemented a range of reforms designed to rebuild public trust. These included not only the establishment of IRBs, but also the development of codes of conduct and ethical guidelines for researchers. Training in research ethics became a standard part of scientific education, ensuring that future generations of researchers would be aware of their ethical responsibilities. The impact of the revelations about Project Sunshine extended beyond the United States. Other countries where bones had been collected also grappled with the ethical implications of the project. In Australia, for example, there were investigations into the use of remains from indigenous communities. These investigations highlighted the broader issues of exploitation and colonialism that had been perpetuated by the project. The ethical breaches of Project Sunshine served as a catalyst for global discussions about research ethics and the need for international standards to protect human rights. The legacy of the whistleblowers who exposed Project Sunshine is a testament to the importance of transparency and accountability in scientific research. Their efforts not only brought to light the unethical practices of the past, but also paved the way for significant reforms that continue to shape the conduct of research today. The stories of these whistleblowers underscore the critical role of investigative journalism and public oversight in holding institutions accountable and ensuring that ethical standards are upheld. As we reflect on the history of Project Sunshine, it is essential to recognize the courage and determination of those who work to uncover the truth. Their efforts have had a lasting impact on the field of research ethics, ensuring that the rights and dignity of individuals are protected in all scientific endeavors. The legacy of Project Sunshine serves as a reminder of the importance of ethical oversight and the need for constant vigilance to prevent abuses in the pursuit of knowledge. In conclusion, the revelations about Project Sunshine and the efforts of whistleblowers like Eileen Welsum have had a profound impact on society and science. The exposure of unethical practices led to significant reforms in research ethics, helping to ensure that such breaches would not be repeated. The legacy of Project Sunshine serves as a powerful reminder of the need for transparency, accountability, and respect for human dignity in all scientific research. As we move forward, the lessons learned from Project Sunshine will continue to inform and guide the ethical conduct of research, safeguarding the rights and well-being of individuals while advancing our understanding of the world. The impact and controversy surrounding Project Sunshine extend far beyond the initial revelations and ethical breaches. The long-term effects of the project have shaped public perception, scientific policy, and ethical standards in profound ways. This chapter will explore the multifaceted impact of Project Sunshine, examining its influence on public health policies, the scientific community, and the broader cultural and ethical implications. When the details of Project Sunshine came to light, the immediate public reaction was one of shock and outrage. The idea that the government had conducted secret experiments using the remains of deceased infants and children without consent struck a deep chord with the public. This revelation challenged the trust that people placed in government institutions and the scientific community. The emotional and ethical dimensions of the controversy sparked widespread debates about the limits of scientific inquiry and the responsibilities of researchers. One of the most significant impacts of Project Sunshine was its influence on public health policies related to radiation safety. The data collected through the project, despite being obtained through unethical means, provided crucial insights into the absorption of radioactive isotopes by human bone tissue. These findings were instrumental in raising awareness about the health risks associated with nuclear fallout and led to the development of more stringent safety standards. The scientific data gathered from Project Sunshine contributed to a growing body of evidence that highlighted the dangers of radioactive contamination. Researchers found that strontium-90, a byproduct of nuclear fission, was accumulating in the bones of children at alarming rates. This information underscored the need for international regulations to limit nuclear testing and reduce the release of radioactive materials into the environment. The heightened awareness of the risks posed by nuclear fallout played a critical role in the negotiation and signing of the Partial Test Ban Treaty of 1963. This treaty, which prohibited atmospheric nuclear tests, marked a significant step towards reducing the global spread of radioactive contamination. The treaty was a direct response to the mounting evidence of the harmful effects of nuclear testing, much of which was informed by the data collected through Project Sunshine. In addition to shaping public health policies, Project Sunshine had a profound impact on the scientific community. The ethical violations exposed by the project led to a re-evaluation of research practices and the establishment of new guidelines to protect human subjects. The development of institutional review boards, IRBs, was one of the most significant outcomes of this re-evaluation. IRBs are tasked with reviewing and overseeing research involving human subjects to ensure that ethical standards are upheld and that participants' rights and well-being are protected. The establishment of IRBs represented a major shift in how scientific research was conducted. Researchers were now required to obtain informed consent from participants, provide detailed information about the nature and purpose of their studies, and ensure that participants understood their rights. These safeguards were designed to prevent the kind of ethical breaches that occurred during Project Sunshine and to restore public trust in scientific research. The ethical lessons learned from Project Sunshine continue to inform contemporary research practices. Training in research ethics has become a standard part of scientific education, helping to ensure that future generations of researchers are aware of their ethical responsibilities. Courses on research ethics cover topics such as informed consent, confidentiality, and the ethical treatment of human subjects, providing researchers with the knowledge and tools to conduct their work with integrity. The broader cultural impact of Project Sunshine is also significant. The project has become a symbol of the potential for abuse when scientific inquiry is conducted without ethical oversight. It serves as a cautionary tale, reminding us of the importance of balancing the pursuit of knowledge with the need to protect the rights and dignity of individuals. The story of Project Sunshine has been featured in numerous books, documentaries, and academic studies, contributing to ongoing discussions about the ethical dimensions of scientific research. The ethical breaches of Project Sunshine also highlighted the need for greater transparency and accountability in government-funded research. The public outcry over the project's revelations led to calls for increased oversight of government research programs and the implementation of stricter ethical guidelines. These calls for accountability extended beyond the scientific community to encompass broader governmental practices, influencing policy decisions, and the development of regulations designed to protect individual rights. The controversy surrounding Project Sunshine also had a lasting impact on the families affected by the unethical practices. Many families experienced deep emotional trauma upon learning that their loved ones' remains had been used in secret experiments. The betrayal of trust by medical and governmental institutions left a lasting scar on these families, who struggled to come to terms with the fact that their deceased relatives had been treated as mere objects of study. The stories of these families were powerful and poignant, highlighting the human cost of the government's actions. Their testimonies during congressional hearings provided a stark reminder of the importance of ethical considerations in scientific research. The emotional impact of these stories helped to galvanize public support for reforms and underscored the need for greater respect and dignity in the treatment of human subjects. The legacy of Project Sunshine extends to the international stage, where it has influenced discussions about research ethics and human rights. The ethical breaches of the project, particularly the exploitation of vulnerable populations and the lack of informed consent, have been cited in debates about international research practices. The project has served as a case study in the development of global ethical standards, helping to shape guidelines that protect human subjects in research conducted around the world. The impact of Project Sunshine also extends to the realm of environmental science. The project's findings on the accumulation of strontium-90 in human bones contributed to a broader understanding of the environmental impact of nuclear testing. This knowledge has informed efforts to monitor and mitigate the effects of radioactive contamination in the environment, leading to improved public health outcomes and greater awareness of the need for environmental protection. The story of Project Sunshine has also inspired a range of cultural responses, including works of fiction, art, and film. These creative responses explore the ethical dimensions of the project and its impact on society, offering new perspectives on the complex relationship between science and ethics. Through these cultural representations, the story of Project Sunshine continues to resonate with audiences and provoke reflection on the ethical responsibilities of researchers and governments. In conclusion, the impact and controversy surrounding Project Sunshine have had far-reaching effects on public health policies, the scientific community, and broader cultural and ethical discussions. The revelations about the project's unethical practices have led to significant reforms in research ethics, greater transparency and accountability in government-funded research, and a heightened awareness of the need to protect the rights and dignity of individuals in scientific inquiry. The legacy of Project Sunshine serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of ethical oversight in the pursuit of knowledge and continues to inform contemporary discussions about the responsibilities of researchers and governments. The legacy of Project Sunshine extends into the realm of scientific insights and ethical lessons, providing a multifaceted look at the intersection of ethics, science, and public policy. The controversial project not only contributed valuable data on radioactive fallout, but also sparked significant changes in how scientific research is conducted and regulated. This chapter delves into the scientific findings derived from Project Sunshine, the ethical debates it ignited, and the lasting lessons that continue to shape the landscape of research ethics today. The primary scientific objective of Project Sunshine was to understand the extent to which radioactive fallout from nuclear tests was being absorbed by the human body, particularly through the accumulation of strontium-90 in bones. This isotope was of particular concern due to its chemical similarity to calcium, which meant it could be absorbed by the body and deposited in bone tissue, potentially causing bone cancer and leukemia. The data collected through Project Sunshine provided critical insights into the pathways and rates of strontium-90 absorption, contributing to the development of safety standards and public health policies aimed at protecting populations from radioactive contamination. The findings from Project Sunshine were instrumental in highlighting the widespread nature of radioactive fallout and its potential health impacts. Researchers found that strontium-90 levels in children's bones were higher than anticipated, indicating that radioactive contamination from nuclear tests was more pervasive and harmful than previously thought. These findings underscored the urgent need for international regulations to limit nuclear testing and reduce the release of radioactive materials into the environment. The data gathered through Project Sunshine played a crucial role in informing public health policies and safety standards. The revelations about the extent of radioactive contamination contributed to the growing public and scientific consensus on the dangers of nuclear fallout, ultimately leading to the Partial Test Ban Treaty of 1963. This treaty, which prohibited atmospheric nuclear tests, marked a significant step towards reducing global radioactive contamination and protecting public health. The scientific insights gained from Project Sunshine thus had a direct and lasting impact on international policy and environmental safety. Despite the valuable data obtained through Project Sunshine, the ethical breaches committed during the project's execution sparked intense debates and led to significant changes in research practices. The lack of informed consent, the use of human remains without the knowledge of families, and the exploitation of vulnerable populations highlighted serious ethical failings. These breaches underscored the need for stricter guidelines and oversight to protect the rights and dignity of individuals involved in scientific research. One of the most significant outcomes of the ethical debates surrounding Project Sunshine was the establishment of institutional review boards, IRBs. These boards were created to provide oversight and ensure that research involving human subjects adheres to ethical standards. IRBs are responsible for reviewing research proposals, ensuring that informed consent is obtained, and monitoring ongoing studies to protect participants' rights and well-being. The establishment of IRBs represented a major shift in how scientific research was conducted, emphasizing the importance of transparency, accountability, and respect for human dignity. The ethical lessons learned from Project Sunshine continue to inform contemporary research practices. Training in research ethics has become a standard part of scientific education, helping to ensure that future generations of researchers are aware of their ethical responsibilities. Courses on research ethics cover topics such as informed consent, confidentiality, and the ethical treatment of human subjects, providing researchers with the knowledge and tools to conduct their work with integrity. In addition to formal training, the legacy of Project Sunshine has fostered a broader cultural shift towards greater awareness and scrutiny of ethical issues in scientific research. Researchers, policymakers, and the public are now more attuned to the ethical dimensions of scientific inquiry, and there is a heightened expectation that research will be conducted with respect for human rights and dignity. This cultural shift has contributed to the development of more robust ethical guidelines and regulations, both at the national and international levels. The impact of Project Sunshine also extends to the field of bioethics, which emerged as a distinct discipline in the latter half of the 20th century. Bioethics addresses the ethical issues arising from advances in biology and medicine, and it encompasses a wide range of topics, including research ethics, clinical ethics, and public health ethics. The controversies surrounding Project Sunshine and other unethical research practices from the same era played a key role in shaping the development of bioethics as a field. These controversies highlighted the need for a systematic approach to addressing ethical issues in science and medicine, leading to the establishment of bioethics as an essential component of modern scientific and medical practice. The ethical breaches of Project Sunshine also had a lasting impact on public trust in scientific institutions and government agencies. The revelations about the project's unethical practices damaged public confidence and led to calls for greater transparency and accountability. In response, many scientific institutions and government agencies implemented reforms to rebuild trust and ensure that ethical standards are upheld. These reforms included the development of codes of conduct, the establishment of ethical review boards, and the implementation of policies to ensure that research is conducted with respect for human rights and dignity. The broader cultural impact of Project Sunshine is also significant. The project has become a symbol of the potential for abuse when scientific inquiry is conducted without ethical oversight. It serves as a cautionary tale, reminding us of the importance of balancing the pursuit of knowledge with the need to protect the rights and dignity of individuals. The story of Project Sunshine has been featured in numerous books, documentaries, and academic studies, contributing to ongoing discussions about the ethical dimensions of scientific research. The lessons learned from Project Sunshine continue to resonate in contemporary discussions about research ethics. The ethical principles that emerged from the debates surrounding the project, such as respect for persons, beneficence, and justice, are now foundational components of research ethics. These principles guide the conduct of scientific research and ensure that the rights and well-being of participants are protected. The legacy of Project Sunshine thus continues to shape the ethical landscape of scientific research, ensuring that the mistakes of the past are not repeated. In addition to shaping ethical guidelines, the lessons learned from Project Sunshine have also influenced the development of international standards for research ethics. Organizations such as the World Health Organization, WHO, and the Council for International Organizations of Medical Sciences, CIOMS, have developed guidelines to ensure that research conducted in different countries adheres to consistent ethical standards. These guidelines emphasize the importance of informed consent, respect for participants' rights, and the need for ethical oversight in all research involving human subjects. The story of Project Sunshine also underscores the importance of ethical education for scientists and researchers. Training in research ethics and the principles of human subjects protection is now a standard part of scientific education, helping to ensure that future generations of researchers are aware of their ethical responsibilities. This training provides researchers with the knowledge and tools to conduct their work with integrity, ensuring that they are equipped to navigate the complex ethical issues that arise in the pursuit of scientific knowledge. The ethical lessons learned from Project Sunshine continue to inform contemporary discussions about the responsibilities of researchers and the role of ethical oversight in scientific inquiry. These lessons emphasize the importance of transparency, accountability, and respect for human dignity in all research endeavors. As we move forward, the legacy of Project Sunshine serves as a powerful reminder of the need to uphold the highest ethical standards in the pursuit of knowledge. In conclusion, the scientific insights and ethical lessons derived from Project Sunshine have had a profound and lasting impact on the field of scientific research. The data collected through the project contributed to our understanding of the health risks associated with nuclear fallout and informed public health policies. At the same time, the ethical breaches committed during the project's execution sparked significant reforms in research practices and led to the development of robust ethical guidelines and oversight mechanisms. The legacy of Project Sunshine serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of balancing the pursuit of knowledge with the need to protect the rights and dignity of individuals, ensuring that scientific progress is achieved with integrity and respect for human rights. The legacy of Project Sunshine extends far beyond its immediate scientific and ethical impacts. It touches on broader themes of government transparency, public trust, and the interplay between scientific progress and moral responsibility. As we look toward the future, it is essential to consider how the lessons learned from Project Sunshine will continue to influence scientific research, public policy, and societal values. This chapter explores the enduring implications of Project Sunshine, the ongoing challenges in balancing scientific advancement with ethical considerations, and the potential future directions for research and policy in this area. One of the most significant legacies of Project Sunshine is its impact on government transparency and public trust. The revelations about the project's unethical practices, conducted under the guise of national security, highlighted the dangers of secretive government programs. This breach of trust has had lasting repercussions, fostering a climate of skepticism and demanding greater accountability from government institutions. In the years following the exposure of Project Sunshine, there has been a concerted effort to increase transparency in government-funded research. This has included the declassification of documents, the establishment of public oversight committees, and the implementation of policies to ensure that research practices are subject to public scrutiny. These measures aim to rebuild public trust and prevent the recurrence of unethical practices. The push for transparency has also led to greater involvement of the public in the research process. Citizen science initiatives, public consultations, and participatory research projects have become more common, allowing individuals to contribute to and influence scientific research. This increased public engagement helps to ensure that research aligns with societal values and ethical standards, fostering a sense of ownership and accountability. The ethical breaches of Project Sunshine have also underscored the importance of robust ethical frameworks and oversight mechanisms. Institutional review boards, IRBs, and ethics committees now play a crucial role in overseeing research involving human subjects, ensuring that ethical standards are upheld. These bodies are tasked with reviewing research proposals, monitoring ongoing studies, and safeguarding the rights and well-being of participants. The lessons learned from Project Sunshine have informed the development of ethical guidelines and regulations at both the national and international levels. Organizations such as the World Health Organization, WHO, and the Council for International Organizations of Medical Sciences, CIOMS, have developed guidelines to ensure that research conducted worldwide adheres to consistent ethical standards. These guidelines emphasize the importance of informed consent, respect for participants' rights, and the need for ethical oversight. Despite these advancements, challenges remain in balancing scientific progress with ethical considerations. The rapid pace of technological innovation presents new ethical dilemmas that require careful consideration and ongoing vigilance. Emerging fields such as artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, and biotechnology raise complex questions about the potential risks and benefits of scientific advancements. One area where these challenges are particularly evident is in the field of genetic research. Advances in genetic engineering and gene editing technologies, such as CRISPR, offer the potential to cure genetic diseases and improve human health. However, these technologies also raise ethical concerns about the potential for unintended consequences, the impact on future generations, and the risk of exacerbating social inequalities. To navigate these challenges, it is essential to foster a culture of ethical awareness and responsibility within the scientific community. This includes providing researchers with training in research ethics, encouraging open dialogue about ethical issues, and promoting a commitment to transparency and accountability. By embedding ethical considerations into the fabric of scientific research, we can ensure that scientific progress is achieved in a manner that respects human dignity and aligns with societal values. The legacy of Project Sunshine also highlights the importance of interdisciplinary collaboration in addressing ethical issues. Ethical considerations in scientific research often intersect with broader social, legal, and political contexts. Addressing these issues requires input from a diverse range of stakeholders, including scientists, ethicists, policymakers, and members of the public. Interdisciplinary collaboration can help to identify and address potential ethical concerns, ensuring that research is conducted in a manner that is both scientifically rigorous and ethically sound. In addition to fostering interdisciplinary collaboration, it is important to engage in ongoing dialogue about the ethical implications of scientific research. Public forums, workshops, and conferences can provide opportunities for stakeholders to discuss and debate ethical issues, share best practices, and develop strategies for addressing emerging challenges. By creating spaces for open and inclusive dialogue, we can ensure that ethical considerations remain at the forefront of scientific research. The ethical lessons learned from Project Sunshine also have implications for education and training. Incorporating ethics education into the curriculum for science and medical students is essential to prepare the next generation of researchers to navigate the complex ethical landscape of modern scientific research. This education should go beyond theoretical discussions of ethical principles and include practical training in ethical decision-making, informed consent, and the responsible conduct of research. Furthermore, the legacy of Project Sunshine underscores the need for ongoing vigilance and oversight. Ethical standards and guidelines must be regularly reviewed and updated to keep pace with advancements in science and technology. This requires a proactive approach to identifying and addressing potential ethical concerns before they become issues. Regular audits, independent reviews, and continuous monitoring can help to ensure that research practices remain aligned with ethical standards. The story of Project Sunshine also serves as a reminder of the importance of empathy and respect in scientific research. At its core, ethical research is about respecting the dignity and rights of individuals and communities. This requires a commitment to listening to the voices of those affected by research, considering their perspectives and concerns, and ensuring that their rights and well-being are protected. As we look to the future, the legacy of Project Sunshine offers valuable lessons for navigating the ethical challenges of scientific research. By fostering a culture of ethical awareness and responsibility, promoting interdisciplinary collaboration and dialogue, and ensuring ongoing vigilance and oversight, we can ensure that scientific progress is achieved in a manner that respects human dignity and aligns with societal values. In conclusion, the legacy of Project Sunshine is a complex and multifaceted one. It has had a profound impact on government transparency, public trust, and the ethical landscape of scientific research. The lessons learned from Project Sunshine continue to inform contemporary research practices, guiding the development of ethical frameworks and oversight mechanisms. As we move forward, it is essential to remain vigilant, foster a culture of ethical awareness and responsibility, and ensure that scientific progress is achieved in a manner that respects human dignity and aligns with societal values. By doing so, we can honor the legacy of Project Sunshine and ensure that the mistakes of the past are not repeated. The legacy of Project Sunshine is a complex one, blending scientific progress with ethical transgressions. It is a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked scientific ambition and the need for rigorous ethical oversight. As we reflect on this dark chapter in history, we honor the memory of those whose remains were used without consent. Their unknowing contributions have helped make the world safer, but their story reminds us of the critical importance of ethics in science. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the unsettling history of Project Sunshine. If you found this video informative, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Let us know which other conspiracy theories or historical mysteries you'd like us to explore next.